Hello, everybody. We have 17 of our registered attendees, which is great. And it looks like we have our cast here. So because you can't hear the audience, I'm going to applaud for them because that was so good. I was laughing, and Danny, you made me cry with the grandma scene. And so many times I kept laughing at lines. I'm like, do they even understand what those lines are? Because some of those references, like, wait, I made a note. Sid, do you know who Morgan Fairchild and Brenda Vaccaro are?
No idea.
Well, first of all, just really, I'm not surprised because I know Sebastian and Ruby have been working so hard on this, but I'm just delighted. It was really so good. So first of all, I want to ask everybody, have any of you, just by a show of hands, have any of you done a virtual show before or been in a movie? So some of you have, okay. Danny, kind of. So Ruby, can you, for our attendee audience out there, can you explain the rehearsal process? I assume you started with music rehearsals first?
Yes, we started with in-person music rehearsals. We were all masked and socially distanced. And from there, we would have some Zoom scene rehearsals so we could actually see our faces and all of those things. And once we got through the whole rehearsal process, we started filming everybody individually with a green screen and a projector. And so we would go through the entire show with one person, and they would do all their parts in one day. And it took everybody roughly like 5 hours. And then the editors just had to compile all that together and create that, what you just saw today.
So none of the cast were actually together during any of it?
We had a couple moments. We had a couple moments after the CDC changed some of the rules and we had some vaccinated people. The penny word scene you saw that made a lot of people cry, that was done together. There were a couple scenes that were done together, but most of it was all done individually.
Sebastian, can you explain for us the editing process? So after everyone did their thing on green screen, what was the editing process like?
Yeah, so our technical director, Ian, who is currently sleeping off of some all-nighters, and I, split the show up, and we took all the footage and we put them on hard drives, and I took my half of the show and he took his half of the show, and we just, hunkered down for 2 weeks, and just like went through. Ruby created some very detailed shot lists with like backgrounds and what the shots and scenes look like. And so we just went through and did it. And we got to be creative. As you could see, there was a lot of like creative editing that I got to do. And, it was a lot of fun. It was the same kind of thing for the music too.
I'm going to just share a couple real quick for our audience at home. I came one day, I think this was when Ethan was doing his stuff, and that is our Morgan Wixon stage with the green screen. That's basically what everyone was doing, correct?
Yeah.
Action.
Hey, Tanya.
Hey, nice jacket.
Thanks, it's members only.
I know. Why are you wearing it?
What? I don't know.
You do realize it's like 1,000 degrees out, right?
Yeah.
What's that smell?
I don't know.
Gross.
Members only, measures 40 through 65, take 1.
Action. There's a place full of awesomeness. It's the place where my life can begin. It will define me finally. And I'd do anything to get in.
You guys recorded the music, correct?
my band, we recorded all the songs first. Over the first couple of weeks, we'd meet once a week, and they're so good, and they could just play stuff down. So they were, seeing charts for the first time and playing all the music, and then we brought those band tracks in, Ruby.
Yeah, and then we came in by vocal parts, so mezzos, altos, tenors, baritones, and we just sung through the entire show. And then Sebastian put those all together and made a mix, and then we just lip synced to it when we were filming.
But did you sing together, or you were also sang individually?
We sang in partners across on the opposite ends of the stage, so we could just know exactly what we're singing and we don't mess up our vocal parts.
This was so complicated. I can't believe how amazing it looks. So the cast, what was it like basically lip syncing to your tracks? What was that like? Anybody? Go ahead, Danny.
I would say it was actually a little bit harder to feel the entire emotion of the song when you're hearing yourself in a recording. That was my experience with it, but yeah.
What about someone else? Anaya?
I actually had an opposite experience. I found it easier to convey my emotions when I wasn't singing because I wasn't like scared of voice cracking or something. So I was just lip syncing to the whole thing. I sang one line and I was like, that's the end. I'm not doing that again. So I just wasn't singing. So it was easier to convey my emotions that way because I wasn't like scared that I would mess up.
I have a question for you guys. How long did it take you to learn these very complicated harmonies? Because this is a crazy score. So how long did it take you guys to learn it all? You guys can just speak up. Turn your mics on. There we go.
2 weeks.
Well, we had music, acting, and dance rehearsals were 2.5 weeks.
That's basically how much time we had to prepare for
that's how much time we had to put it together before. Then it was 5 days of voiceover and music recording, and then 2 weeks of filming and 2 weeks of editing. So they had 2.5 weeks to learn the show.
Sebastian, where did you get all these background images from?
There were a lot of different sources. Some of them are, I shot the impressionist art, which I was doing 2 nights ago at 3 a.m. Was all from the National Gallery of Art. They had like 40,000 royalty-free art pictures, and all these and so I was finding amazing pictures, and it was really fun. And Ruby obviously found a lot of pictures for Ian and me to put in.
Did you have the ideas for the what the backgrounds would be before you recorded, or that was completely afterwards in post?
I mean, it depended on the number. I knew I wanted to do, TV show kind of styles for my numbers at least. And so I kind of had that thought. And Ruby, what do you think?
There was a general outline, I'd say. We had a couple images for each thing. And then we kind of let everyone else's, the editor's imagination kind of run wild from there.
Something
So
cool we did that you might have noticed actually is we used a projector on set. So we did projections from behind. So for some backdrops where you could see the linen or the scrim, and you could the front projections too over the actors' faces.
What are the odds that this planet would be the perfect distance from the sun?
The sun is blazing. I'm in my backyard playing Super.
And that was we were really happy about that.
That was great. I'm going to ask your director, Ann Gessling, what were the music rehearsals your typical rehearsals? Basically sitting around a piano and learning the songs?
Yeah, we did the music rehearsals just like I do every other music rehearsal, plunk out the parts, but being masked and socially distanced meant that you weren't quite sure whether everything was actually there. It sounded really good through a mask, but we did find that when we got into recording the vocals, there was like, oh, that's not quite how that goes. Get out the piano on the phone. Ding, 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 ding. Okay, let's do it.
Also, Anne, what was the biggest difference in directing this show versus all the many other Yes shows you've directed? What was it like doing this type of show?
Oh, time was the biggest thing. I mean, really, there was no time to really direct. I mean, there was some of the scene work we did. We talked about, backgrounds. We talked about relationships. We talked a lot, but we weren't able to really rehearse the scenes all that much. And the songs, in the middle of the song, it's like, sell. I mean, all I can say is know your lyric, know your story, sell. Tell your story. Because you've got 8 people and there was no time to get 8 people together and choreograph and make it all perfect like you would normally do. So, I mean, the actors created, especially in their solos, so much of their own stuff.
Anaya, what was your favorite number?
I would say, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of biased to say I rarely schedule nothing because I sang that, but I really liked More Life and Members Only because when we were doing those in person, we really got into the music and like started standing up and dancing. Whereas like others, we kind of got lost in the harmonies and we're just sitting down redoing it over. So I would say Members Only and More Life were definitely my favorites.
Finn, what was it like acting the entire show by yourself? For those of us that are used to being on stage, what was it like to have to talk to someone that wasn't there?
It's definitely a lot harder, like having to like pretend that somebody is there and like talking to somebody that isn't there, but just like we kind of rehearsed it like masked and distanced once together, which made it a lot more helpful, and just kind of like remembering what it was like to have a person there and kind of like pretending that he was there, acting. But it was super weird, but like once I kind of got used to it, it was like easier.
Well, you see all these superhero movies and the actors are always against green screen, doing something, to something that's not there. So it was sort of like you're getting training for your future movie careers. Grace, was the final product tonight what you imagined it would be from what your producers told you it would be?
I mean, pretty much, yeah. Like, I hadn't seen any of the footage. Like, right when we filmed something, we never, like, went back on the camera to look at it. But, like, they kind of laid everything out in the beginning, explained, like, all the green screens, like, the front projections, the back projections. Like, obviously, I didn't know, like, which specific images everything would be. But it was pretty much what they said it was going to be. They did a great job.
Ethan, what was the most challenging song for either you or the whole group?
For me, it was definitely Dazzle Camouflage, because staying in the Ed Grimley hair and costume, we were on limited time because we hairsprayed my hair up into a point for just long enough that I had time for probably 4 takes, and it was a difficult role to play, switching between all the voices. So that was something that I had to try a lot at and try to get right. And for everybody, I think Members Only was a pretty hard but fun number. That was one of my favorite during music rehearsals to really sink our teeth into. And it felt really good once we finally got it all down at the end.
Ethan, I have to tell you, your impressions were amazing. Have you always done impressions, or did you just, like, you came up with all these?
No, not really. I mean, I was given this role and I discovered that, some of these I could do and some were a struggle. And we changed some because they were kind of flexible. So like there were some I just could not do, and we changed them to things that were more in my wheelhouse. But yeah, it was definitely an interesting experience.
Well, it didn't look like you were struggling at all because they were all like spot on and really great. So congratulations. So Ruby and Sebastian, as the producers of this production, for those of you in the audience that don't know, you guys came to the board of the Morgan Wixon to pitch this, and told us you wanted to do this. And I don't even know if the board really knew what it was going to turn out to be, but we loved your proposal so much that we said yes. And so I'm wondering, why did you propose this show when you could have proposed any other show? How did you hear about the show? Why did you like this show? Why this show?
To be honest,
you first. Yeah, please.
We kind of just scrolled through Concord theatricals and looked at shows that would work on Zoom. And then we read the description of the show, and we saw that it was written by Susan Blackwell and Hunter Bell and Jeff Bowen. And we were like, ooh, they did title of show. We love that show. And so we listened to the show and we kind of read out more of it. And we thought it was a very fitting show. And it really works with like the present day and what we're dealing with right now. And so it was kind of an accident. And then when we read more into it, we were like, oh, this works perfectly.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's all about finding who you are. A lot of us found new things about ourselves through quarantine and like, growing up and living the life that we missed for the last year and a half. It's all about going through that stuff. And so that was a big thing. And also, we love title of show. And they wrote this show right after that, riding the high of that. And so it was like kind of like an unknown underground thing that I was like, okay, I'd love if at least a few more people knew this. So
what, being first time producers for Yes and for the Morgan Wixon, the most organized scheduling and plan that I've ever seen at the Morgan Wixon. What is the most important lesson you learned about producing when producing the show? What's the most important lesson you each learned?
Like maybe communication, probably, and time. You got to take every piece of time that you have. Communication probably is the biggest one, though. If you're not talking to your crew or your creative team or the cast, people are going to be confused. And I think as long as people were well informed and the cast was well informed, I don't think it would have looked like this if we hadn't been a unit.
Sebastian?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. That was perfectly said.
Sid, what was your favorite part of the show?
I don't know. I feel like I would obviously be remiss if I didn't say my part of Archer, which I really enjoyed. Because I really liked the character and I really liked the song. I thought it was it wasn't as weird as some of the other songs, so I was happy about that. But I also would say probably my second favorite was also Members Only, like everyone else said. It was just such a fun number and the music was so fun to sing to. And I remember we were doing our music rehearsals and we were like, it's kind of the end of the music rehearsal and we were all kind of getting really tired and not really singing very well. And then we started Members Only and, we all stood up and we started dancing around the theater and it was just such a fun time. And so, yeah, I would say that's probably my favorite, my second favorite to sing.
Who explained to you all what Members Only was?
I mean, it's kind of like cool now. It's back in vogue.
Oh, is it back in vogue? Oh, okay.
A little bit. Hypewear, street.
All the consignment stores, I guess, have the jackets.
Yeah.
I should have kept one. Sebastian, I would be remiss not to mention the very talented Ian Liu, who was up till 3 a.m. several nights in a row putting this together and doing the final edit last night and early this morning. Can you tell us about Ian and what he did for the show? He couldn't be with us tonight because he's sleeping, but
So Ian, we found through another friend of the theater, Hollister. He runs a lot of professional shoots around town, and he does really very good edits for, you know, church services and other live stream shows. And he did all the live stream material for his for his college. And so we thought it would be perfect. And so he really, I mean, we couldn't have done it without him. He brought so much equipment and gear and to the set, and he lit the faces, and he brought all the, you know, cameras, and we got the mics and and all the, you know, all the right lingo on set. All of us learned some new movie set lingo. And then, you know, he and I began to edit. We had some nights where we would edit from 2 p.m. to 7 a.m. the next day. And, you know, like we all just put it together. And, but yeah, he is, you know, good at what he does.
I have a few more questions, but I wanted to mention to our attendees out there that if you have any questions, please put them in the Q&A down below at the bottom of your screen, so we can ask the group any questions you might have. I did also want to mention that we have a couple comments here. Amazing work, everyone. An incredible piece of art, and I am so impressed and blown away by the talent of these actors. Oh wait, I'm scrolling, hold on. Of these actors and the determination of the entire creative team to make this show come together. Cast, crew, and creative team, congrats on such a success. Everyone's voices, harmonies, and acting was so on point, and it's apparent that the producers were very talented and communicative. Congrats to all, such an amazing technical achievement and fantastic performances. And that is from Mirai, your choreographer. So I want to thank Mirai for her choreography as well. Let's see, Anne, I was wondering, how would this show look differently if it was actually done live on stage rather than virtually as was done here? Are there still the projections, and how would it be staged?
You know, I mean, it would definitely be completely different. You know, I mean, mainly you can't have all these costume changes and, you know, stuff that you can, you know, cut to a new costume and a new person. So that you'd have to be rethinking that. I tried not to ever think about this on how I would stage it on stage, because that was just going to mess me up. I needed to think film, because let's face it, I'm a theater director. These are all theater actors. We don't have people that are like that were like, oh yeah, well, I know this is what this is. So we all had to kind of work together to figure out how to make this work visually. You know, use your face and all of that stuff. So I've not thought about staging it on stage at all.
You know, I think many of us have been watching a lot of theater online the past year of COVID, and I've really appreciated it. I've enjoyed it, and I've seen some really good shows. But this show was really wonderful, and it was almost I don't think they wrote it this way, but it was almost made for virtual performance the way you guys did it. You know, it was really, 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 really well done. Yes, Sebastian?
I mean, actually, the version that we are doing, the version of this show, actually, there are parts that are written for, you know, doing it virtually. Like, you know, the last scene where, I don't remember who says it. I think it's Ethan, when...
No, it's Finn.
Finn. When they're like, you can turn off your device, we will be seeing you soon. Like, that's all, you know, new material for online stuff.
Okay, I thought you guys added that in. We have a question from the audience. With the incredibly foreboding task of creating this virtual musical, what was the hardest part of assembling this intuitive masterpiece? And that was from Toby.
The hardest part of assembling was assembling, you know, putting everything together, editing, and I'm sure you can see why.
And I think from like an actor's perspective, definitely, I would say like the transitions from section to section because, you know, if you look at Pennywords as a good example, if you're looking at Pennywords, you can tell that we did it in different parts. And so carrying that emotion from take to take and having to do multiple takes of it was definitely a difficult part of assembling and, you know, creating that character arc for you while you're filming.
It was very movie making. Anaya.
For me personally, it was learning the lines because I typically in productions don't learn lines on purpose. I just run the scene so many times that it just kind of is built into my memory. And trying to learn these, doing it separately, like those scientist lines, you guys, those words were so hard. I didn't know what half of what I was saying meant. So I was kind of just like spitting them out and using hand movements to like, I don't know. So learning lines for the scientists was definitely hardest for me.
Well, you came off like a real scientist. I thought, who they get for the scientist? We have some more. We are so proud of you, Anaya. Yay, Finn. So much talent. Great job, everyone. It was incredible. I'm blown away. Just want to make sure we're getting all these nice comments over here. Ruby, I wanted to ask you, the characters are named A to B, etc. Is that how they're named in the script, or why are they named that way?
In the script, they are also named, there's only 4 characters in the original script, but the flexible version allows you to add more. So we doubled the cast. So there used to be person 1, person 2, person 3, person 4. And so we just kind of split those characters up and divided them up. And
in reality, they could be switched up. If I saw another production, the characters Ethan was playing might have been played by some other person.
Yes.
Yeah, anybody could have played anything. All the characters have the option to be, you know, gender diverse, and so we just thought that was great, and it
that's wonderful
flexibility. You know, any pronoun that's used in the show is gender neutral, and unless we changed it for more specific things, but yeah.
So we have another question from Ruth for the cast, which is a really great question. Was the cast able to bond the way they would have if you were all working in person? Danny.
Yes. Okay. So great question. I
It's
think,
Ruth.
Sorry. I think that we all have become the greatest of friends, honestly. Even though it was like the shortest rehearsal process ever, and then we weren't filming all together, but I really enjoyed our time together, and I cried when it ended. So there's that.
Well, now with things opening up and vaccines, you'll have to get together in person and get together. Anyone else? Did you feel the bonding experience was the same for you guys? Grace?
I'd say like yes and no, because obviously we're not spending like the same, 4 hours a day, like 6 days a week together, how we would like when we're normally putting together a show. So we didn't necessarily get that time together, but I think it was just such a great group of kids, and a lot of us already knew each other, that we did get along really well, and we all ended up being really good friends and keeping in touch.
We were literally texting during the show. We have a group chat. We were all just like commenting and cheering each other on the whole time. So there's definitely still a level of friendship.
That's great. I want to go around to the cast and ask each of you what you learned while doing the show, either about performing or about life itself. Sebastian mentioned that a lot of things have been learned. I'd like to know from you guys, if you're able and willing to share, what you learned. Anaya, can I start with you?
Yes, you can. I was in the process of thinking of my answer, but I'll just go out on a limb here. Okay, it's really most like the acting style, being alone. I feel like it kind of felt like, for me, a one-woman show. So I felt like I understood people who do one-man shows or woman shows. That's like, you really have to look deep into your character. And like, sometimes they have a bunch of personalities that are like just so different that you have to really dig deep into all of them. But also just, I really thought that it was cool how we could be so close when we were so far, if that makes sense. And how we all worked together separately. I don't know, sometimes I word things confusingly. If you got that, good job, thank you. Yeah.
Sid, what about you? What did you learn about life or performing?
Did you say Sid or Finn? Sorry.
Sid.
Oh, okay.
You, Sid.
Yeah. I would say, yeah, like kind of like Anaya doing the filming online, or like filming with a camera instead of on stage was definitely very different, and it took a while to get used to. But and I think I figured out that I liked doing stage a little bit more than filming, in my opinion. But also I think that the show, like as its own, like the themes that come from the show about being present and here in the moment really helped me, because like I remember, you know, COVID, and like when this was happening, I remember just kind of thinking about what was going to happen next year, and like finally being done with COVID and leaving the home, and you know everything that comes with, you know, getting older. And I was just constantly thinking in the future, and I think that this show really helped me like stay grounded in the present and really appreciate everything that was happening around me. And so I think I had a really fun end of the year, and I do attribute some of that to this show.
Grace, what about you?
I mean, one of the big themes of the show was like time, and like how you spend your time, and like that. And I like learned a lot of that, and like a lot from that. And like, you know, like you should spend time doing things you enjoy, and like you should put more time and work into the things you love. And it like made me appreciate like the work that goes into theater more, because yeah.
Finn, what about you?
I think for me, like in terms of acting technique, I definitely like, because the stories are so like kind of specific, but also like vague. I know those contradict each other, but like the way that it's written is kind of like up to interpretation for the actor. So I guess like I learned a lot about how to like balance being a totally different person, but also like using your own personal experiences and your own personal like stories to like channel emotions into like songs and monologues, which is like, it was kind of interesting to like find that balance between like using your own personality and yourself, but also like a totally different person in their experience.
Ethan, what about you? What did you learn?
Like everybody has been saying, in terms of experience, I learned a lot about how uncomfortable it is to just be acting to nothing, or just be alone, or acting even to a camera rather than an audience, was a huge learning curve. But one thing I learned in the life category was from Pennywords, the scene with Danny and I. I had previously believed that you had to try your best to make these huge speeches with, you know, very eloquent words to really, you know, capture emotion in any form. And that scene really kind of taught me that even like random little words, the more you say them, they don't lose value, and they don't become any less true the more you repeat things to the people you love. So yeah, that was my biggest life takeaway from any of the scenes.
It's really beautiful. I think not only did you guys do a beautiful job with that scene, but with the grandmother's scene, I was at one of my grandmother's bedsides, and so I think that scene really moved me and took me back 30 years. Danny, what about you? What did you learn?
First of all, I learned that I am a theater person. But I think most of all, along with what everyone else said, just enjoying and living for like the moment and not taking things for granted. A lot especially before COVID, of my life was taken for granted. And so never again. So yeah.
It's really amazing. And as older people will tell you, younger people, life flies by so fast. And so it is a really good lesson to enjoy now, here, and this. Sebastian and Ruby, we talked about what you learned production-wise, but same question for you, life or performance?
I mean, obviously, besides, you know, stress management and that a Slim Jim tastes really good at 4 a.m. I definitely learned, and Ruby and Ethan at least can attest to this, that now hear this can be used as a verb. Like, come on, we got to now hear this. Like stop thinking about, you know, where we're going to be in 5 minutes. We have to be right now. How are we going to, and that's something I've like always struggled with, you know, obviously, like having to focus on bigger pictures a lot, but thinking about the now hear this and what I'm doing now is going to, you know, branch off into whatever is going to come. So now hearing this, yeah.
I learned a lot about like my own insecurities and how I view myself compared to how other people view myself. And I think this show kind of helped me take a look, kind of step back from my internal thoughts and see kind of myself from everyone else's perspective. So yeah, and the stress management was a huge thing, I'd say.
Well, I've always seen you as talented, but I also found out you are communicative, smart, organized, and really amazing. So thank you for your work on this. Anne, did you learn anything about life from watching this kid?
I learned that I'm really, really, really old. Yeah, you know, I mean, I think it's a lot of what Ruby and Sebastian, this show, the Now Hear This, because I'm like Sebastian, I've got 17,000 things going on, and I'm always thinking while I'm working on one about the other 5 things I'm supposed to be doing. And so I'm trying to take the Now Hear This into my life and going, yeah, I may have 5 things going on, but this is the one I'm working on right now. So let's stay focused. Let's stay, you know, present right now, and then not worry about the 17 other things. I'm trying. I'm not good at it yet, but I'm trying.
Susan said that we had wonderful performances and ensemble work from each and every cast member. I loved this! Exclamation point. Thank you. We also have a question here. After filming so many scenes solo, how did you feel after seeing it all come together in the end? Anyone want to answer that? Not all at once. Ethan, can you tell us what you thought after you saw it come together?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, first of all, it was surprising because none of us had ever seen any footage before today, little bits and pieces and pictures now and then, but it was really kind of odd because not only had I not seen the footage of it all edited in together, I had not seen my fellow castmates performing because we were all on solo days. So it was a very welcome surprise to be able to witness everybody's performances, and also kind of fun to remember doing certain things. It was like, oh yeah, we did do that, and then seeing it there. That was probably my favorite part about seeing it all come together. Yeah.
You know, what's also interesting is because you acted separately, your reactions could have been very wrong. Like, you know what I mean? Like you could be way up here and Grace would have been down here, but all the reactions really melded really nicely as if you were right there together. Anaya, did I see your hand?
There we go. I feel like also, hi Nana. My Nana was the person who asked that. Wanted to give a shout out to her.
Okay.
I I feel like seeing it all come together was so stressful because like, especially for me, because my scientist lines came like right after every song and I was just never expecting it. So I always kind of let out a little shriek and I was like that. But it was really fun and I loved the editing and watching everybody like, because I'd only seen people do like Sid's Archer song. I'd only seen it once. So I love seeing it again, like This Time by Danny. All of the songs that I only seen once, I love seeing them again. And I hope there's a recording of this because I just want to keep watching this over and over. I loved it.
It was edited in a way that was very retro, but very now. So it was really nicely put together. And that's why I asked so many questions in the beginning about where you got the backgrounds and how it was done, because there's
I think it was a combination of styles.
So another question for the cast is, would you do, since so many of you said you prefer stage, would you guys like to do the show live on stage, a version that way? We have 3 heads nodding yes.
Let's do it, guys.
We have a lot happening at the Morgan Wixon, both with our Yes program and with our main stage. So check out our website and see all that is going on. Would love to have you participate and join us. And we're just going to see some final last things here. Bravo, well done, everyone. Amazing job, loved all the performances. So thank you to all of our attendees for joining us tonight. Really appreciate it. Thanks for popping over to Zoom. Tell your friends about this show. There are only 3 more performances. And you guys really just so impressed with every single one of you, from the acting to the voices, to the costumes, to the singing, the choreography, Mariah, the direction, Anne. And once again, our leaders for this who proposed it and steered the ship, Ruby and Sebastian. Really nice job. Thanks, everyone, so much. And have a great night. Check out our website for everything that's happening at the Morgan Wixon. Goodbye, everybody.